Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Krier created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Krier, and I am passionate about bringing professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have a blast today, but we're going to turn things up a bit, turn them on their head, spin them around. This is program 858. And a couple of times in there, I have done this where a guest has interviewed me and I have become the victim. The person being interviewed, and it's always so much fun. Anyhow, I think so. And so we're going to have so much fun today because we're doing that. And the fabulous Kathleen Caldwell is going to be interviewing me. So welcome, Kathleen. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, Deb, I am so excited. I was like a kid before Christmas, looking forward to this morning and to be able to interview you. Put you on we're going to put you on the love seat, not the hot seat.
Not the hot seat, the love seat. I love it. Well, let me tell people just a smidge about you so that they know why I was like, oh my gosh, Kathleen has to do this. So I have known Kathleen not really all that long. It's kind of amazing, but we have definitely bonded, and she is my business coach. She is definitely my mentor. And she's very much a trusted friend, and we have been through a journey together, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But Kathleen is, she's, oh my gosh, I just can't say enough about her. She is the chief business strategist and the founder of Caldwell Consulting Group. And I'll have her tell a little bit more about that later on in the program. She's also a success hypnotherapist. That's always so much fun. I love it when we do short little sessions. She is part of C-Suite Network. She is an investor and a contributor thought leader. She is the founder of C-Suite Network's Women's Coaching and Consulting Council. And, what she does is bring so much light and energy and knowledge for those of us who are in the business world. And I am very proud to say that for a year, I've been a part of her Women's Success Accelerator, which is what led us to what the heck we're talking about today. So with that, Kathleen, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Oh, Deb, thank you. Thank you so much. And I was looking back, we've known each other for about a year and a half. And I think that this really signals that people that are like-minded and are energetically aligned can really connect and, really create beautiful connected relationships and have magic happen as a result of bringing two people together. And it really is the mastermind effect, along with the other sisters that are in our Success Accelerator and our council. So Power Community, which is really part of the theme for today, isn't it?
Right. It is. It is. And it's been all virtual. We were lucky enough to meet in person this last January, but until then, it was all virtual. And I think that is showing how business has evolved into truly a virtual type of community where we can build such good business connections and friendships all virtually. Maybe it goes back to those old pen pal days, right? When we used to write letters to a pen pal that we never met, but we bonded with them.
Will you be my pen pal?
I will.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And it's really fascinating how energetically, with a powerful intention, we can create something really phenomenal, dynamic, and make such an impact. And that's what you're doing, Deb. It's what you're doing. And so, switching the tables here, putting you in the love seat to really talk about, your journey. And so may I start with a couple questions, my dear?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. So I would love if you would tell your global audience, our audience now in this moment, tell us a little bit about your journey, your health journey, and, what kind of had the inklings maybe there's something about this that maybe has a greater purpose.
Right. Well, from a business perspective, I've always been a communicator, and a connector. I mean, that's been one of the things that I have always prided myself in, is connecting people with the knowledge and the resources that they need. I mean, that's just kind of always been in there. In 2015 is kind of where this journey started. I was a good kid. I went for my annual checkup, like we all do, and had my mammogram and got the phone call, "You need to come back." Now, I had worked for an oncologist and I worked for the American Cancer Society. And so immediately the alarm bells went off. I mean, I knew that the equipment hadn't malfunctioned, even though they were very careful about how they worded things. I mean, but so I went back, and turns out I had something that only the computer could see. I did not have a lump. I did not have a bump, a mass, anything like that. I had what they call microcalcifications, which are smaller than grains of sand or salt or whatever we want to call it, itsy bitsy little things. And like I said, the computer saw it. Most women, once they reach a certain age, have these things because it is just something that happens in their body as the hormones in our body change. The vast majority of time, there's no problem, obviously. But every once in a while, people have to be special, and they start gathering together, and then they cause an issue. And so that was what the problem was. Met with my doctors, and they all said, this is going to be easy peasy. This is stage 0. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to do a couple more follow-up appointments, blah, blah, blah. So I did meet with the surgeon, and she was same thing. Not going to have any problems. This is going to be easy. Ran a couple biopsies. Those came back negative. And then she said, but we do need to do pull some lymph nodes just to make sure. And it was one of those things where it surprised all of us, because 8 of 12 lymph nodes came back positive for cancer. And so I went from stage 0 to stage 3-ish, just, in the span of an hour, Wow. And so then it was, okay, now we have a totally different problem. And it was one of those things where, like I said, I know just enough to be dangerous. So I knew, okay, now we've got issues. Met then with the oncologist, and we, and she was a little concerned. She said, because these little bippity boppities are floating through my body. It's not that we have something in one place where we can just go in and take it out. And so she decided to throw the virtual book at it. And I had 8 different chemo drugs in one day. It was a really fun day, but I didn't have any issues. Halloween was like the next day. I gave out candy. I mean, it was like, well, this is fun. And then
you went through it like a trooper, right?
Yeah. I mean, and I really was kind of thinking, well, this was easy. Stupid me. I know it was like, because then it hit. And it was like, okay, I should be nauseated. All of those things that we know go along with taking chemotherapy, whether it's small doses, large doses, whatever. And and I was okay. And then I went another day, and it was like, well, I don't know about this. And so we were getting ready to call in and tell my doctor, we think there's a problem. I need to come back. And in essence, the world fell apart at that point. My husband had to call an ambulance, and the fire department came to get me down the stairs. That was fun. And we, we're on our way to the hospital. And what had happened was I had an excruciating pain in one place. I mean, it was, and I knew that was not normal. And so I remember being on the way to the hospital, and which is 5 minutes away, which is good. And we stopped, and I told the very nice EMT, why are we stopping? Because I'm like I am all the time, just jabber, jabber. Hello, how are you doing? Type of thing. Right. And I said, why did we stop? And he said, well, it's a stoplight. And I said, we're not going lights and sirens. And that's the last thing I remember for hours. I crashed. And so what had happened was that one of the chemo drugs had basically caused a hole in my colon That's a really bad thing to have because you get sepsis. And not only did I have sepsis, it then went into septic shock, which is where your body just shuts down. So get to the hospital, which, like I said, was 5 minutes. That was the good thing. And for the vast majority of people who have this complication, it is fatal, because you are thinking it's just regular, and so, we never would have done anything. But I ended up in the hospital for 7 weeks because I had multiple complications. I mean, you do when you have septic shock. But learning how to communicate with the doctors was a big part of this process because there were so many of them, because I had so many complications. I remember at one point I had 10 different doctors that did rounds on me. And it was one of those things where I was just determined that everything was going to be okay. I mean, they argued over how fast I was going to die. And I'm like, excuse me, I can hear you. And it really was just kind of one of those things. And then, obviously got better, had more surgery, had more complications, anything and everything that could go wrong did. But I just kept thinking, this is not going to be the end of me. This is not going to be it. And a huge part of that was my community. Mm-hmm. And, it was one of those things where, when I initially knew what kind of the situation was, and then to add, kind of things in there, at one point I told them, I said, my rib hurts. So got to have another fun test. And then the diagnosis went to stage 4. So technically my diagnosis is stage 4, triple positive breast cancer. All of those words are very bad. And especially when you combine them all like that. But I had been keeping my community posted, and people had said, tell us what's going on. So what I did was, rather than sending, multiple emails, multiple texts, I set up a private Facebook group and invited my friends and said, hey, if you want to know what's going on with me, here it is. 400 people are part of that group. And the vast majority of them are the lurkers. And I don't even know if they read the messages, of course, but they're there. And during this whole process, I would keep them posted, or someone else would, when I couldn't. And one of the things I remember thinking is, well, I have to get better because I can't let all these people down. But more importantly, I felt their support and their caring and their prayers, all of those various things, and that really was a huge part, I think, of why I have gotten to where I am today, 7, 8 years later. And still, I'm still in treatment. I actually still have every 21 days, because I could not obviously take more chemotherapy. We did try one more time. Guess what? Did the same thing. Back in the hospital I went, and but I still am in active treatment. Every 21 days I go and I have an infusion. So I have a port in my shoulder to make it very easy to do this. And, we just go along. But it to me, it really was so much that the things I learned were communication and your community. I mean, that was the big takeaways for me.
Yes. And, I just would like to add a little humor, because you and I do that. And so for your audience, just know that Deb goes to a lot of extremes to experience life and every part of life, and she's committed to expertise. So you went through it. It's just amazing. Yeah. You're not a bystander. I'm
in the thick of it. Holy schmoly.
Exactly.
And trying to have fun with it too. I mean, you got to have a little humor in it.
Yes. And so, from this, experience that you've had, and, I mean, I have so many questions that, we'll talk about it, about, how can people support people that are dealing with cancer? And of course, the people that are the supporters, oftentimes we don't know what to do. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but, how then this cancer really has been part of your life for 7, 8 years. And, thinking about how did it then impact your business? Because again, you're the founder of the Business Power Hour. So let's talk about that. How did the experience of everything you went through, how did it impact your business?
So my company is Wise Women Communications.
Yes.
And clearly we had clients during all of this. There was about a month where I dropped off the face of the earth. And Business Power Hour ran best of episodes.
Great.
So that worked,
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I don't remember. Have we counted those in the 858 or not? I don't, anyhow.
There's still episodes, right?
It. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, but my business has continued. And I tell people, for one thing, hospitals and doctors' offices have really pretty good Wi-Fi, so I can sit there and be working. There are times where I've been in the hospital and my clients have never known it because I just keep working. It has been, the nice thing was that I could do that. I mean, everything that I do is virtual. So I had that opportunity. I did tell my clients what was going on, just so if there was ever a day or two here or there where I didn't respond, that was probably what was going on. And so that was one of the things, is having those discussions, which is a challenging discussion for many people in business to have with people they work with.
Right. Which, knowing what you're up to these days, has really informed a lot of your new work that you're doing. You're continuing with your Wise Women Communication, your Business Power Hour, but also expanding your business and, your mission as well for life. And so, would you like to share how your experience with cancer and your journey has now taken you to another level of living?
Right.
Yeah.
Part of it is you do have your mindset alters. And the thing with stage 4 cancer is it is not considered curable. It is always there. Now, it may never come back, but it is not, once it reaches that point, there is always the chance that it will reoccur and that you will come out of remission. Fortunately, I have not had anything show up on any scan since 2015. That first big dose did its job. But you do start thinking about the fact that maybe your expiration date is a little bit sooner than others. But at the same point, you can't dwell on it, because I could get hit by a bus when I'm going out. I mean, and so, but I think one of the things that you really do think about, anyhow, at least I did, was what is going to bring me joy and what isn't, and can I either eliminate or, make it smaller, and really focus on being around people who bring me joy, who I laugh with, and same thing with clients. I've always told people, don't work with somebody you don't want to, be around. But that was part of it, was, I like my clients. I like working with them. And if somebody approached me that I wasn't comfortable with, I would very politely decline and recommend them to someone else. But it does, when you have something like this, whether it's cancer, a chronic illness, things like that, you do start thinking about, how am I going to live the rest of my life? And am I going to make it something that, I could look back on and be proud of, or look back on and go, and so that kind of was the impetus between, how am I going to go on from now? Do I slip? Of course. We all have days where, it's not a good time, but the goal is, how can I leave the world a better place? I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not, but how can, in my little part of the world, how can I leave it a better place?
Yes. And you certainly are doing that. And I think, some people often say that a diagnosis of a disease or a condition or a situation has ended up giving them so much vitality and new purpose. And how would you say that the diagnosis that you received, how has it changed your life from, trying not to die, but to live, which is really the tagline for your new business and community venture? Part
of it is to give yourself grace. And, not try to solve all the problems of the world, not try to make your business the $900 billion business. Now that would be great, but but to realize, do what you can while you can. And one of the things that I've really had to learn is to accept the limitations that all of this has put on me. One of the drugs that I take causes extreme fatigue and insomnia. It's like, well, this is fun. So you're wide awake and sleepy at 2:00 in the morning. But it also means that there are chronic things. Like I have chronic pain. Normally it's just kind of hovering around there and you ignore it. And then it'll pop up to a 9 or a 10. And I'm like, okay, stopping now. And I think, I get forced to do that. I have to stop. I have to take a nap. I have to do these things. And what it reminds me of, though, is that we all have those little things where we kind of hit that wall and we ignore it. And it either means that we don't do the best, whatever it is that we're doing, because we're extremely fatigued. We're not feeling well. We're just not feeling it, period. Right.
Right. But
we force ourselves to go through it. And sometimes what we do need to do is take that pause and kind of regenerate. Maybe it's, a 5-minute meditation period, or a nap, or you knock off for a long weekend. But we need to pay attention to those signals that our mind and our bodies are sending us.
Yeah, absolutely. And to ignore them at a high cost, right?
Right.
Because you now know the effect of what happens when you listen to your body and you listen to your intuition, your knowing, your trust of what's happening. And then perhaps times when you haven't, and certainly I haven't, just push through it, as you said. Yeah, there is a cost, isn't there?
Right. Yeah. And sometimes it is that we just don't do as good a job, or we get cranky with people, or, all of those various things. But yeah, we're not serving ourselves or anyone else to our best when we're not paying attention to those signals.
Right. And I know one thing that you do, and I so appreciate, is specifically is that that on a treatment day, and that for your global audience, it could be you anticipate and that you have a big event coming up, or you have something going on in your life, and you anticipate that, hey, I might need a little extra self-care.
Right.
And so granting yourself the grace, as you said, to give ourselves the grace in advance for that.
Right.
And I think for many women that I know, for me, I was, in an environment, my mother, very, very hard driving, really, really successful nurse, and father, very successful. So driving, doing, achieving was always very rewarded.
And napping is not part of that.
Oh, absolutely. It's not part of the matrix, napping or a little bit of relaxation, taking some time out was not part of the equation. But how do you then use, anticipating what's happening in your life and building in some strategies to prepare yourself, Deb? How do you do that?
The nice thing is I know exactly what days I'm going to have treatment on. They're in my calendar for the rest of the year. Now, do those change? Sure. I mean, but we can't be off by much. Because, I go every 21 days at the most. I can go 5 weeks. And the problem is when I go 5 weeks, then I get a double dose. So I really try to not do that. But yeah, so I have this built in, this is going to happen on this day. And so I have gone through my calendar and those days are completely blocked off.
Yes. They're sacred for you, aren't they?
They are. And I block the entire day because, my treatment takes a whopping 30 minutes. Takes me longer to get there, get all the blood work, do all that stuff than my treatment actually takes. But by blocking the entire day, I'm not going to get to the point where it's like, I've scheduled something, and then you're in mass panic. I actually schedule with the doctor 4 appointments at a time. So I'm going out, and so those are pretty set. But, and I try and do mornings because then I can come home and rest. And like I said, I have blocked myself out. Now, if something comes up that I think I want to do, I can do it. but I'm not in that, oh my gosh, I have to rearrange things mode. And I also know that for a couple of days after I have a treatment, I'm going to be tired. I'm fortunate in the fact that the side effects are really just fatigue. I mean, there's not anything like because it's not what I'm taking now is not chemotherapy. So I just get to, so, I block that time out. I try to not do anything for that weekend. Does that always work? No. I mean, there have been times well, I've flown somewhere the same day I had a treatment, or, driven on, but again, you make those concessions, okay, well, I'm going to have to go to bed early. Maybe I'm going to, and a big part of it is, okay, how am I going to eat this week? Am I going to make sure I get enough fluids? Because that's part of this. You get these nasty chemicals in your body. A big part is keeping hydrated to flush them around and out as fast as you possibly can. And so it's just kind of knowing all of these things that you have to do and make concessions for it, and let the people around you know those things also. Now my husband, bless him, he's obviously had to deal with this as much as I have, but he knows treatment days are he's on his own for dinner. But he also knows that it's it is the time where I need to rest. Other people who I work with know, okay, she might not respond that day, but she'll respond the next day. And just not letting them push me, to say, nope, we need you to do this. Again, you make the choice. Maybe it is something I need to do, but otherwise it's not. And it comes back to that communication. People don't know that we need that extra time, that extra grace, if we don't tell them. I like to think they're mind readers, but they're not.
Right. And so everything that you've learned, your experiences, my goodness, I mean, the vast experiences that you've had with the cancer diagnosis and the journey has then turned into, about a year ago, a conversation that we had in March of 2022 about you telling me about this journey. Right. And the thing that I have been given the grace of is being able to see and put together the dots about how people's experience can lead to, right, the mess is the mission, as people call it. And the journey is really the foundation for a movement. How do you think that your diagnosis has now then informed what you're doing now so passionately? The tryingnottodie.LIVE movement.
It all along, people have said, you need to be lecturing. You need to do these things. You need to share your journey. My oncologist was the first one. She said, you need to be talking to other doctors about this. And I kept thinking, I don't want to be cancer girl.
And need to is not very, need to sounds like another to-do on a to-do list.
And I'm like, nah.
Need to, yeah.
And
how about?
So now if people asked me, hey, here's what's going on, I was more than happy to help. In the doctor's office, they have brought people to me and said, hey, she's getting a port. Would you mind showing her what your port looks like? Would you talk to, I'm one of those people that, pre-COVID, and now we're starting to get back to where I can do it again. I'll go around and say, hey, can I get everybody something to drink? Freeing up the staff for being able to do what they're to be doing, and just talking to people. I mean, hello, I'm Chatty Cathy, right? But when I joined Women's Success Accelerator, it was with the goal of promoting the LinkedIn service that we provide for executives. How are we going to take that to the next level? And so you and I were having the one-on-one. We were talking about that, and you said you took a pause, and you said, you know what? There's more, because you had put those dots together, and you saw that I needed to take what I had been through and use it to help others. And I think the time was finally right for me to acknowledge and accept that. And so we did, and yeah, I mean, it's been a year, and here we have this movement this, whatever it is that we call it, that is going forward, gaining momentum. We're having so much fun with it, but it's such a delight to see. And more importantly, when we see that it's helping others, I mean, that really is what it was designed to do.
Yes. And you are so doing that. And the really the purpose, the tagline, trying not to die.live, just really fully expresses your journey. And I so appreciate so many things that you said, Deb, is, and for all of your listeners, is that the experiences that we've been through in life can, at the right time, we can look back, and especially with a guide or a mentor, we are trained to help people kind of see the journey and to see a higher purpose for the journey, and then to put some processes and systems and things around it so that it's something that can be duplicated, replicated, and into a movement. And so a private Facebook group and resources, and tell your global audience, you have so many components in your Facebook group and your whole movement. It's so exciting.
Well, I'll start with how we came up with the name. And I wanted to share with everybody too, the reason that we're talking about this is because everyone might have a passion, and you can do this too. Now, I jumped all in. I mean, but you can do this in a much smaller way. And so we want to show people how they can do it too. So the Trying Not to Die came from one of the times when I was in the hospital and Mom was here. She came from Kansas, and, some medical person came in, did something, and left. And then I got the mom look, that disapproving, eek. And I went, what? And she said, you did not say thank you. And I said, oh, for God's sakes, I'm trying to not die here. And that really was just, that's exactly what I said. I'm trying to not die here. And then later on, when we were thinking about this, we were thinking that is what happens when you have something like this, or again, a chronic illness, something like, we get so focused on trying to not die that we forget we have to live. And so, we had the trying to not die part. And then I go to, GoDaddy, look at tryingnottodie.com, because I am a marketing person. .com is the most common thing, yada, yada, yada. And it was taken. Somebody has it. And it's funny. It's this young woman who is a college student overseas. She's not done anything with it. I contacted her, offered to buy it, gave what I thought was a pretty reasonable amount. She came back and wanted $5,000. And I said, oh, honey, this is just something in my mind. I'm not paying that much money for that. And so I go back to GoDaddy, and GoDaddy suggests, here are the other things that are available that you might want to consider and spend money on. And it said, tryingnottodie.live. And that just was perfect. And so then, of course, what happened is I was working through this process, and I hired this absolutely wonderful brand identity person, Josh Seppas, to help us through this. And we said, let's make it an acronym. And so live, and so the website is www.tryingnottodie.live, but the live is an acronym. And so it's lead your tribe. From your family to your physicians, you must lead your coalition. Invigorate your soul. Put yourself first as if it is your life on the line. Voice your feelings across a bridge of honesty, for only the truth is actionable. And elevate your mindset with a belief that you will indeed be fine no matter what the end results are. And so that was just kind of this. And then, you and I are talking about this, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go all in. And, and I'm very fortunate in the fact that I was able to do that both from a mental perspective, from a time perspective, and from a financial perspective, because I have made quite an investment. Again, for some folks, maybe all they need to do and want to do is a private Facebook group. But I hired Josh. We developed the brand manifesto that is absolutely killer, knock it out of the park. And, it's funny because I do branding, I do marketing, I design websites, but I knew if I didn't have someone else do it, I'd never get it done, right? We're the cobbler whose kids never have shoes. So I then hired a team to develop the website. Kate Wiley and Brian Basilico have done an excellent job on all of that. And then of course, working with you in the Women's Success Accelerator. So, it's been this team of people, but it really can just be one. But and you mentioned the Facebook group. It is a private Facebook group. And we made it private simply to keep out the people who are going to tell us that their juice can cure us. And their juice might make us feel better, but it's probably not going to cure us. But yeah, we wanted to keep out the spammers. And so I do allow anyone into the Facebook group as long as I know that they're a real person who's not going to cause any issues. And that's been a great place for our community to really build and interact with each other. And I think that's because most people are familiar with Facebook. This is not really appropriate for something like LinkedIn or any of the other social platforms. And Facebook really was a great place to do this. Plus, the only thing it costs is my time, to be able to manage it and go in and do the posts and things like that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, when I went all in, I went all in. And we officially launched the website in October. It was appropriate because that was obviously Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But we launched it because you, out of your graciousness, had me do a program on it for C-Suite, and and talk about kind of how this passion and this wanting to help others can how we formed it, but again, how others can do it and replicate it.
Yes, beautiful. And we named the program From Tragedy to Triumph.
Mm-hmm.
And so, really a model. I mean, we're bringing it back to the Business Power Hour podcast here, is that, for all of your listeners, that, the things that have happened to us, our experiences, we can kind of step back and really look at what are the lessons,
right?
Where are the opportunities? How can I take this experience and turn it into a greater purpose? Right. Because as we go along in our lives, oftentimes as we get later in our years, it's really time to look back and use our wisdom and our experience for greater good.
Right.
And of course, as you have mentioned so many times, Deb, community, connection, and bringing knowledge, bringing experience, support, all those good things. And of course, commerce.
Right. We do have a store.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. And you're providing products and services and things that are supporting people that have had, that have been diagnosed with cancer. And, tell us a little bit about that, because they're tested by you and they're time tested and, things that I would never think about as a layperson, supporting you and others. Yeah. So tell us about that.
So what we decided to offer were things that I discovered through my journey were helpful or could have been helpful. So the first thing, and it is the primary piece that we developed, is a notebook, and it's called I Am Tribe. It is, we pulled together all sorts of things, but it's a great resource to gather your medical records, because we go into the doctor and they say, what are you taking? And we go, when was your last surgery? And it also has things in there like who is your tribe? What's your family medical history? It has, living will, your patient's bill of rights. I mean, all of those things are in there. And, it's something that as we designed it, it is designed in a 3-ring binder, because then you can, we sell a PDF that you can just download, or the full version that we've put together. And then we've got lots of other fun things in there, like temporary tattoos. I mean, all sorts of things. But then you can put your latest test results in there, all of those things that when you go into the doctor, you can do that. And I've had people who are 100% healthy who have purchased this because they say, hey, this is a great place to put these resources. Kind of scares me anytime somebody buys one. I'm like, and then no, it's okay. But yeah, so that's kind of the keystone of all of this. But some of the other products are things that the patient, the person on their journey could buy for themselves, but it's more what someone might buy to support them. So things like a tote bag, a blanket, t-shirt, a shirt that buttons up the front, because when you go in, when you have a port and you go in and you need it accessed, if you just have a t-shirt on, they can't access that because it's down in your shoulder. And so you need something that buttons. And so we have this very cool, it's a baseball jersey, and so it buttons. Slippers, oh my gosh, you're in the hospital, your feet are cold, and they give you those slippy socky thingies. But yeah, slippers. One of the cool things, and of course he is our other little thing. And for those of you watching, this is Warrior. He is our little bear, and he has our logo on, which is a warrior, and we'll explain that. But he's and I had, when I was in the hospital, I had several friends who were far away, and they sent me stuffed animals, and they were this size, what is this, 4 or 5 inches tall. Those little buggers were with me the entire time because it meant I was not alone. I knew that it was kind of through the process, they had thought of me, so they're still thinking of me. And so that little stuffed animal was this great representation of that. And we do have some other items, but they were things that we were thinking about, what comes in handy. When you're going through chemo, my first treatment was over 8 hours long. And so you're there long enough, you might want a blanket. We do have a pillow, a small pillow. But something to put your snacks in. And so the way we designed it too is that you could have the person buying it for someone else could have it sent to them, add items to it, like magazines, puzzle books, crackers, and then gift it to the person. Might be a group of people want to go together and say an office or a church group or something and buy this, but it's just a little way. And like we said, it has the warrior on it because we are all warriors as we're going through this process.
Yes. And so this is such an important part of the whole mission. Mm-hmm. Deb, you have archetypes. Mm-hmm. And again, folks listening to this wonderful podcast, we so appreciate you listening and really taking notes as well, is thinking about the archetypes. How do we need to be, and who do we need to be to get through this situation? Right. Tell us a little bit more about your logo and the warrior. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I was just starting the journey and I'd probably seen this multiple times, but of course it was like we were saying, timing is everything. And I saw this thing probably on Facebook, and it said, fate says to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. The warrior responds, I am the storm. And I even have I got a tattoo on my arm that says warrior. I mentioned the temporary tattoos. We have temporary tattoos that say warrior, so that someone can have that as they're going through their treatment, and not have something that's going to last forever like mine does. But the concept of the warrior is that, she or he, we are the ones in charge. We are the warriors. We are the ones going through this. But the important thing is that we not go through it alone. A warrior is only as strong as their tribe. And so that's where it is so important, is to build those people who are around you, whether it's your medical people, your family, your friends, all of those people who are going to support you in this process. So I worked with this lovely young woman. She just graduated from college. Her name is Mackenzie Hooks, to design the logo. And it is a warrior, and she is kneeling. And gentlemen, yes, we support you. We love you. We encourage you. But I do understand that women are our primary audience, right? I am a marketer. So anyhow, the warrior is a woman, and she is kneeling, and she has put her sword in the sand in front of her. And she is saying, I draw the line here. This is where I take my stand. And she's looking out. She's looking forward. She is not in a submissive pose. I mean, this is very much a warrior pose. And I love, you pointed out at one point that a warrior's armor is just in the front. They don't have armor in the back because they're always going forward. They're not
Right.
worried about what's behind them. It is
They're not
what-
running.
Yes, yes. It is what is in front of you that you have to deal with. And really that's kind of where this warrior came from. And so anytime, like I saw a post from a friend of mine yesterday, she's has had quite the journey with cancer and is on the upswing again. Absolutely fantastic news. And of course, what I put was warrior on,
Right.
because it is that thought that we can stand this. And I don't want to be Pollyanna about this. Sometimes our journeys, well, obviously our journeys end, and sometimes they end a lot sooner than we had thought. But the key is, we're not curing anything. We're saying this is how you live with it and you learn to live. And so how are you going to do that? Are you going to do that with the grace and the strength of the warrior and be that example to everyone else? And that's really where we got the warrior.
Beautiful. And your whole tribe and community metaphors, and again, for your audience, thinking and remembering the mindset of you're never alone.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're never alone. And I so appreciate that you have created a tribe of elders, you have advisors. Maybe you could tell your global audience about how you've really surrounded yourself and set up a structure for more support and more guidance.
Right.
Yeah. For not only yourself, but also for your global community.
Right. It is, like we said, it's about building those tribes. And so we've developed our advisors, our tribe members, one of which is, of course, you. And I tell people, some of them, I'm like, I'm sorry, you got sucked into this. You're not getting out. Thank you.
You've been nominated and volunteered, and you're in.
Yeah. And
they're delighted, by the way.
I so appreciate the fact that I have sucked them in and they have embraced it. Because I always tell people, it's okay. I'll understand. They're nope, we're in it for the long haul. But we also have medical people. Obviously, my oncologist is one of our advisors. We've got some other medical people who are in there. People who have had cancer are part of our advisors. And because when I give our information and our resources, I need to make sure, first of all, that it is accurate, that that it is correct. Like in our resources, I mean, if you Google cancer, your internet blows up, right? I mean, there's just and that's one of the first things we do. Anytime you get a diagnosis, you go to Dr. Google and you get and so the resources that we provide are very much ones that we know are factual and authentic. So pretty much the only ones that I always refer to is the American Cancer Society and Mayo Clinic. But we also have things we have one of our people has leukemia. So we have the Leukemia Society, because that person said to me, oh my gosh, this is a great resource. Fine. We were more than happy to put that in there. But the other thing that we also have resources on is for physicians.
Yes. Exactly.
And medical personnel who are dealing with us. And how are they going to treat us in a way that is respectful and honors our challenges and our journey? And so that's part of why we also wanted medical people to be part of our board of advisors, was to make sure that we were incorporating that also.
Yes. And so really the tremendous scope of the mission that you have started is, when we start with the next step, and is also not only for patients that are dealing with cancer, but also how to be supporters of our family members and friends who have been diagnosed with it. But also, an arm that I know that you're moving into is physician education, medical personnel, and also the impact on medical schools. So you as a speaker, speaking to medical students about how to really listen to what patients are not saying.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
there have been several times when, doctors have brought where I've, brought students interns, things like that, and said, talk to her. Because they know that I'm going to give them what is, helpful information. And so like one of the things that I tell them is, I am a patient, or no, I am not a patient. I am a person.
There you go. Yes.
And please remember to treat me like I am your mother, your grandmother, your wife, or how you would like to be treated. Treat me with that respect, with that, because, doctors and medical people, bless them. I mean, and especially when you're dealing with something like this, it is such a challenge in so many ways. And so sometimes they kind of go into robot mode. Here's the information. I got to go to my next patient. Here's the information. I got to go to my next patient. And they forget that we might have 900 questions. We're really sorry, but we have 900 questions because we went to Dr. Google. And so, but the entire medical community is really looking at this, and has been for a while. They call it patient-centered care. And in my marketing mind, that's called customer service, right?
Exactly.
And so how do we work together as that team to have the better outcome? And to really make sure, because when they are listening to us, when they are treating us with respect, we're going to pay attention to them. So we're going to be more likely to follow their instructions. We might still question them, but and so we're going to have a better outcome when it's more of a team as opposed to someone lecturing to someone else. And I think it is something that needs to start in the schools, being taught that this is how you treat these people, not these patients. And they're also not a diagnosis. I mean, I heard people when I was in the hospital saying, "Oh, she's the so-and-so in room," and I'm like, what?
Yeah. So bringing the people, the human part, back into, cancer, and to any sort of, I hate to use the word diagnosis, but, to a situation, but also, another facet of your movement. And again, for your beautiful audience, starting where you're at. And of course, then thinking about what could be the layers that you add on over time. But, certainly with the Business Power Hour, the workplace and commerce and business is dealing with, people that are dealing with illness and situations that impact their professional life. And so, how do HR departments and how do people teams, how do they cope? So the multifaceted aspect of your movement, Deb, is so inspiring, so exciting. And, it's really a legacy to who you are, Deb. It really is.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And, so inspiring to me, and I know to your audience. And so, I'm just wondering, perhaps some big picture takeaways from our time together, lessons learned, and, things that you would, share with your audience today.
I think, it's especially when you're dealing with, because yes, this is hopefully going to be a business that makes money. Even nonprofits make money. There's
absolutely,
and so, but it's okay to be small and think big. And it's also okay to stay small. I mean, maybe what you want to do is just have a Facebook group for moms facing the same issue. That's okay. But for me, it really is about how can we impact others in a positive way, and then have that spread. Two people last week in our Facebook group posted and said, "I'm going in for surgery tomorrow." Immediately, people started saying, "What, prayers for you, sending you thoughts, keep us posted," all of those various things. And those people didn't know each other. They had no idea who they were. But that community is what helps people. And I always tell people, because many times they tell me, I don't know what to say. My friend, whoever was diagnosed, I don't know what to say. And I tell them, I'm sorry. What can I do? Is good, but don't ignore it. There's that big elephant in the room. It's very much like if you're dealing with someone who has lost a partner or a child, you don't know what to say, but simply saying, I'm sorry. I mean, that goes so far, and so, we can all make a difference, whether it's large, whether it's small. Sometimes it is just something as simple as, like my mother said, saying thank you, right? You know, when we're going through the drive-through and we can tell that that person might have had a bad day, saying, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You might be the only person that day that said something nice to them, but make sure that you are that person who said something nice to them. You know, if you can do something that, you know, is going to affect many others, great. That's fabulous. But affecting one person, because then they're going to affect a person positively. They might not turn around and yell at the person next to them. They might say thank you, and then it spreads. I mean, that's how all this comes about, is how can we find the positives in something that is horrible and icky and awful? I've had over 30 surgical procedures. I'm this mass of scars. How can we find something positive in that can help others?
Yes. Deb, what an inspiring, my goodness, fabulous interview. Great opportunity to talk with you. I know that your words of they're just out now in the world, sending those messages of positivity. And, you know, and it just starts with one step, and taking the step when you're ready, and building a community and tribe, and just taking that one step with an intention of caring and making a positive difference, and, you know, kind of getting out of our own way a bit, you know, and seeking the support of others. And there's a lot of support, I think, even more than we'll ever know. So,
I love it.
Deb, thank you. I honor you. I appreciate you. And you matter.
Well, speaking of appreciate and honoring, you were a big and are a big part of all of this. And I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about what you do, because I cannot recommend you highly enough. Would I have done this without you? No. I just wouldn't have. But the guidance that you provided was absolutely invaluable. And whether it's through the programs that you provide, but yes, you have a great way of working with people and honoring them. And so please tell us a little bit more about how you could help others.
Oh my goodness. Deb, thank you. And what you're illustrating for me and for your audience is really the spirit of reciprocity and the spirit of respect and the ripple effect of the work that we're doing and who we are. We'll never know the lives that we touch. And, you know, to think that we don't have an impact is actually kind of selfish, you know? So the work that I do is to guide and mentor women, especially. I love men and I love children and communities, but my specialty is working with women who in their heart, they know they have a message. They want to use their life for a greater purpose, and how to do that to really help them be seen, be heard, and be richly rewarded in whatever fashion works for them. And so I have groups, masterminds, councils. The form of it is different. And, it's very easy to find me on LinkedIn, Kathleen Caldwell. And, I have my website, KathleenCaldwell.com. And so reach out to me, send me a post, send me, I think also commenting on your fabulous podcast today, Deb, getting the conversation about what's there for you to do in the audience, what's there for you to do, and to even just simply have a conversation about, hey, I have an inkling that there's more for me in this world, and just starting. That's it. Yeah, the world needs us now. The world needs us, more than ever before.
Right.
Yeah. And it's our opportunity to do something about it.
And it has been such an honor for me to work with you. It is, and really it has been a blessing, and something obviously that I will never forget. And hopefully through what we have done, we're able to show people they're not alone, and to really let them know that they need to build that sense of community, or not that sense of build that community to help others, support others. If they want to do it themselves, they can do that too.
That's right.
We want to do that. So again, thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you being the guest on today's Business Power Hour podcast. Deb Krier, founder of the movement tryingnottodie.LIVE and founder of Wise Women Communication.
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, normally I ask my guests for one final quote. So I'm going to reiterate the quote that we did earlier. Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm. The warrior responds, I am the storm. So for everyone out there, be that warrior, be that storm. You can do it. We know you can do it. I'm Deb Krier. I've been having so much fun talking with Kathleen Caldwell. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Krier, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.